Hello, let's talk about assessment, delving into Catur Sandi based self-assessment rubric in reading instruction. Its design and implementation. To get organized, we're going to start our discussion with a little introduction and then method, result and discussion, conclusion, and we're going to close it with suggestion. An increasing awareness that an assessment can enhance and shape students' learning has changed the assessment paradigm from traditional to alternative-based form of assessment. The key actually lies on the information that you can obtain. The information you can get from the students will affect the curriculum, assessment, instruction, and also decision making. A meaningful assessment is an assessment that can give an information on an ongoing basis on each individual of the students and also provide information about the development of each students. Actually, the self-autonomy should be developed by the students so they can be responsible of their own learning. Being a leader of their own learning will boost creativity, independent learning, and also critical thinking. As it is said, self-assessment improves learners' autonomy, affect their motivation, encourage the cooperation within each student, improving their communication, enhance their interpersonal skills, and also boost their self-confidence. Now, let's take a look at what happened in an examination world around the country. The exam culture is actually more developed than the learning culture. It is a massive use of objective tests, and this has become teacher become trapped in the teacher-centered learning. Self-autonomy must be developed, and the learning paradigm has to be shifted from the teacher-center to a student-center. And Hollex is actually explained that self-autonomy is related to self-leadership, which means that students taking charge of their own learning. Yeah, so self-leadership is defined as the taking charge of one's learning. Students have to take charge of their own learning and know the direction, which way they have to go for their own good. Now let's talk about assessment in reading. Why reading? Because reading is actually linking all the curriculums, and reading skill has to be mastered from early on. As it said, assessment in reading also relate directly to the philosophical belief underpinning the language instruction or language learning. When we assess reading process, we have to think about the level of preparedness of each individual level. Assessment must be sustainable, unstructured, student-centered, and also contextual. And now let's have a look at what happened in Indonesia. What happened in reading assessment in Indonesia? In Indonesia, reading test is dominated by a massive use of objective tests, especially multiple choice. Economically, this is good, but doesn't really give much information about the students' improvement day by day. Self-assessment is a powerful technique to be used in reading assessment because when assessing themselves, students will try harder. When they try harder, the result gonna be better. And we call it self-reaction. But is this good to apply for students in Bali? When self-assessing themselves, Balinese students might feel confused whether to be honest or to be modest. This is because of the fact to be modest is ingrained culture of etiquette in Asian culture. Now, the concept of leadership in Balinese culture as a value that is instilled in this archipelago can be used as a basis of leadership, instilling leadership from early on. This is called Catur Sandi. And this consists of 4 parts. The first one is sama, which means that a leader has to be alert by the danger from inside and outside, from within and outside the authority. If this implies as a teacher as a leader in the learning has to be aware what treat the failure in the education of their students. And when this apply in students, the students must be aware what can treat or hinder the development of their own learning. Beta means giving equal treatment. In assessment, teacher have to treat every students all the same, and everyone must achieve their best potential. And for a student, this might means that they have to be fair for themselves. They know what's good and what's bad for themselves, and what has to be improved from within. And Dana means prioritizing education for the welfare of each student. And for the students, Dana meaning that they have to use this assessment to best develop their needs. And the last one is Danda, which means being fair to the mistakes the students make, meaning that the teacher can provide recognizing the needs of a meaningful assessment in reading, especially to grow self-leadership in Balinese culture. So this is the aim of this research, is to design and implement a self-assessment that form instructional decision, contextual and self-leadership. Now let's talk about the method in this research. This research is using a 4D models that consists of define, develop, design and disseminate. And however, this study did not disseminate because this research was not developed in a broader scale. The content analysis is very important. In order to know the validity of this content, we are using the Gregory equation, and because of the data is polyatomic, we are using a product moment. For the reliability, we are using an alpha Cronbach. Now let's move on to the result and discussion. At the define stage, we resulting an analysis and also a syllabus analysis, and this resulting the needs of a self-assessment in reading which was not exist before. And the design stage consists of several steps, and these are the steps that we gone through during the design stage. During the develop stage, we are doing the validity testing and content validity. And for the content validity, we are using an expert judgment, and we're using a Gregory formula. And now let's have a look at the result. This is the consensus index we're using to compare between the two experts. And the calculation is using a contingency table like before, and this is the formula. The index is ranging from 0 to 1, and from the calculation we are getting a 0.8, which categorized as very high. And this is the subject that we used to try the model. We were also testing the empirical validity using the product moment correlation, and we calculated using a SPSS. Because the total respondents are 38, and this is the value that we're looking for in significance of 0.05 and 0.1. And now let's take a look at the results. Only question 6 is invalid. Because it might be invalid because the question was not very clear. The question might be not understood. The statement might be not accordance with the objective of the research, or the respondent is hesitate to answer. The Cronbach alpha is used to test the reliability because the answer consists of two possibly answer, yes or no. The testing result hypothesis is resulting 0.8, which considers very high. So based on that, we can make some conclusion and suggestions of the study. So we can say that Catur, Sandi can be used as an instrument to monitor the process of students' learning and especially reading development. So these can be used to foster self-leadership and autonomy in learning. But self-assessment is only good if it used in a formative manner, meaning like you have a plan what to do after knowing the information. And we can make several recommendations on this study. The first one is this instrument needs to be tested in public, so it can be developed more widely and to be tested more accurately. And it has to be investigated how successful this self-assessment is for elementary school age children. An investigation on this case will deepen the repertoire of this research. And we would like to thank you very much for listening to our presentation today. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again soon.